Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. So we're starting off with some interesting news coming from Naughty Dog Intergalactic and the potential new Last of Us project. Now Naughty Dog, the studio behind The Last of Us and Uncharted, is stepping into brand new territory. In a recent interview, studio head Neil Druckmann revealed that their upcoming project Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, is not only their biggest game ever, it's also shaping up to be the most expensive too. And that's a bold statement coming from a team that already delivered two massive Last of Us games. So what actually makes this project so different? Druckmann goes on to explain that the game is already very deep into development. The team is, as he calls it, firing on all cylinders, and the scope is larger than anything Naughty Dog has ever done before. And yes, Troy Baker, the voice behind Joel in The Last of Us, is also back for Intergalactic. It's been 5 years, apparently, since Druckmann last worked with Troy Baker, and he sounded genuinely excited to be collaborating with him again. Right after finishing The Last of Us Part 2, the studio had a very big decision to make. Should they jump straight into The Last of Us Part 3, or should they take a completely new direction? And for a while they explored all the options. They even explored another Uncharted game and maybe even revisiting Jak and Daxter, but the passion kept pulling them towards something fresh and new, and that ended up becoming Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. And the game itself was unveiled during the 2024 Game Awards, surprising fans who didn't expect Naughty Dog to leave its grounded, emotional storytelling behind for a sci-fi bounty hunter adventure. The premise is based on a lone intergalactic bounty hunter on the trail of fugitives. Not much else has been confirmed, but the cast is absolutely stacked with Tati Gabrielle, Tony Dalton, Kumail Nanjiani, and of course Troy Baker. That shift doesn't mean The Last of Us is dead though. In fact, Neil Druckmann has been careful with his wording. He hinted that while Part 2 could be the end of the series in terms of mainline games, the franchise itself is far from finished. And don't forget, this is one of Sony's most profitable and lucrative franchises, so I don't expect the series to be completely finished at all. Remember, The Last of Us has already expanded into graphic novels and of course the HBO series, and Druckmann even teased that there are more things happening in that universe, though he'd stopped short of saying exactly what that reference was for. Could it mean that there's a Last of Us Part 3 someday? Maybe a spin-off game? Maybe even a flashback game exploring the events right after the virus spread, focusing mainly on Joel and Tommy's adventures? Could it be another season of The Last of Us show? Or could it even be a smaller, standalone Factions 2 game, not the planned mega live service game that would have kept the studio focusing on one live service game for the next decade, but could it be just a simple multiplayer Factions 2, which maybe they could update 2 or 3 times a year? Is that possible? Or could it be something completely unexpected like books or animation? That's the big question fans are asking. And with Sony holding on to one of its most valuable franchises, it's hard to believe that they'll stop expanding this Last of Us universe anytime soon. So guys, let me know in the comments, what do you think Naughty Dog's unannounced game is? What do you think they could do in terms of revisiting The Last of Us? Is it a comic? Is it a story? Is it an animation? Is it The Last of Us Part 3? Let me know down below and let's move on. I briefly wanted to cover this because according to a reliable tech leaker known as Moore's Law is Dead, the PlayStation 6 could deliver ray tracing performance comparable to Nvidia's beastly RTX 5090 graphics card. Now that's a claim that would have sounded wild a few years ago, but with AMD's new Orion architecture and AI-driven technology, it might actually be true. So rasterization, which is how consoles have traditionally rendered graphics, is expected to be around 2 or 3 times boosted over the PlayStation 5. That's okay. It's not humongous, it's okay, but the real leap is in ray tracing, which could see performance multiply by nearly 10 times. For gamers, that means more realistic lighting, reflections and shadows, especially for those games that are built specifically from the ground up for the PlayStation 6. This is why I posted on the channel recently what would make you jump for the PlayStation 6? What would make you dive in on the PlayStation 6? There was multiple answers you could have picked from, or you could have left your comments in the comment section. But one of the things I think that's most important about the PlayStation 6 is, personally for me, it's having games. I mean, I'm going to get it. Let me just clarify that. I'm going to get it anyway, regardless. I always get new consoles when they come out. All right. So for me, I'm already in, regardless of how much of an improvement it is, regardless of what games are out there, I will be getting the PlayStation 6. But I think it's needed that the PlayStation 6 will have games that are specifically built only for the PlayStation PlayStation 6 so we can actually see its capabilities over the PlayStation 5. Think back to when Ratchet and Clank launched. Some of the things that game could do can only be possible on the PlayStation 5 due to the SSD speed and loading assets and things. Those things were not possible on PlayStation 4. But equally, I understand where the frustration comes in, because Sony went into the PlayStation 5 generation and they said that, games will only be playable on PlayStation 5. But actually, when COVID kicked in and there were stock shortages and things were going to impact gaming, all of a sudden, games were playable on PlayStation 4. And we saw this massive cross-gen for about 4 years. So I get it when PlayStation come out and say, well, this game is only playable on PlayStation 6. You kind of wonder, is it really only playable on PlayStation 6, or is that just a ploy to try and push more people towards the new console, which we know Sony want to do. We know they want a higher, quicker uptake on the new console. We get it. But technically, I want games that are only playable on PlayStation 6 because of the technical leap, the technology, the AI, things that are physically impossible. I want to see what that looks like from a raw power perspective, from ray tracing, from AI technology, from whatever the PSSI is capable of doing on PlayStation. I want to see those technical achievements rather than just locking games to PlayStation 6 because Sony want people to buy the console. But really, when you break it down, technically those games might still be playable on PS5. I hope you get what I mean, right? We want games that are technically not able to be played on the PlayStation 5. Anyway, that's just my perspective on it. I just wanted to cover it briefly because I saw this report from Moore's Law is Dead. Of course, these are just leaks. Sony hasn't confirmed anything yet, but if true, it shows Sony is focusing not just on raw power, but also on smarter AI-assisted performance. And I'm hoping it's going to be a kind of generational leap. And I think this is where the next generation console will have its real power, its capability to utilize AI like never before. It will prioritize its efforts to ensure the games are delivering higher quality and performance and frame rates and graphics because of the way the AI prioritizes the tasks on the PlayStation 6. Anyway, Sony hasn't confirmed anything yet, but of course, more and more leaks will be coming out as Sony define its internal PS6 specifications. So let me know in the comments, what will it take you to dive into the PlayStation 6 once it comes out eventually in 2027 or 2028? Is it going to be the tech? Is it going to be the system-only games? What feature will make you think, right, that's for me, I'm going to get the PlayStation 6? And speaking of Sony has released a new report, a corporate report, which has something missing which has caught the attention of many people. In the past few years, Sony has made a big deal about game revenue beyond console. It's crazy that some people across social media took that as Sony going full multi-plat, suggesting all PlayStation games were going to every single platform. That's just not the case. That phrase, game revenue beyond console, highlights Sony's push into PC and mobile gaming and other platforms like media, right? Animation, anime, movies, TV shows. It doesn't mean Sony going full multi-plat. It shows that they want to grow beyond just the PlayStation box and take that IP to other places, other mediums. In this new report, that phrase is gone. What does that mean exactly? Well, one possibility is that Sony has decided that PC and mobile revenue isn't a big enough growth driver on its own. Yes, some ports like Helldivers 2 have done well, but others haven't matched the console's performance. And we've seen when new games come out on PlayStation's platform on the console, because of the huge user base, the sales are phenomenal. But when you then take those games and place them onto other platforms, they don't necessarily always do as well. They don't always necessarily generate that level of revenue. Sony may now see PC and mobile as nice to have, but not core to their business. The other possibility could be that it's just a matter of wording. Sony is still investing in multi-device ecosystems, but maybe they don't feel the need to highlight it as a key metric anymore. Instead, they're just focusing on the basics: hardware sales, monthly active users, and total playtime. In short, console-first engagement still seems to be their priority, even as they quietly expand beyond it. I mean, did you expect it to be anything other than console first? Sony has reiterated this on several occasions over the past 18 months or so. So no real surprises. Just thought it was interesting that they removed that particular phrase from their official report. But moving on, we've got some interesting news on Silent Hill F. So the upcoming Silent Hill F, we know, is set in 1960s Japan, and it looks like a haunting return to the series' survival horror roots. The game launches worldwide on September the 25th, but if you get the Deluxe Edition, you'll have early access starting September the 23rd. Preloads for the Deluxe owners begins on September the 21st, while Standard Edition players can preload on September the 23rd. Now, on the PlayStation PlayStation 5, the game will take up around 37 gigabytes, which is pretty impressive, while the PC version requires closer to 50. That's fairly modest compared to some massive modern releases, which might feel like a relief for anyone short on space. Like every good Silent Hill game, it's all about survival when a strange, nightmarish fog creeps in. Expect puzzles, combat, and the eerie atmosphere in this game that made the series absolutely legendary. And while we're speaking about horror games, the next RE entry, Resident Evil Requiem, is already shaping up to be one of the most talked about releases in the franchise's long history. In a recent interview with the Future Game Show, director Koshi Nakanishi and producer Masato Umezawa sat down to talk about the project, and they revealed some very interesting details about what fans can expect of the new Resident Evil game. So when asked about how Requiem compares to past Resident Evil titles, Nakanishi explained that the tone of the game leans much more into horror. He compared it directly to Resident Evil 7 and the Resident Evil 2 remake. Both of those games were praised for bringing back the darker, more suspenseful style that made the series famous. He described Requiem as old school Resident Evil. That means exploration, backtracking, and that consistent tension of knowing something could be waiting around the corner about to make you jump out of your seat. For long-time fans, that's exactly what they've been hoping for, a return to the roots of survival horror. Now, the game doesn't just stick to one perspective. Nakanishi confirmed that both third-person and first-person camera angles will be used. This gives the developers a lot of flexibility. Some sequences may feel more personal and terrifying in first-person, while others could lean on the classic over-the-shoulder style, which Resident Evil perfected in Resident Evil 4. Now, it's almost like the best of both worlds. The interview also touched on setting and story. We know Requiem takes place 30 years after the destruction of Raccoon City, a landmark event in the series. And the main character this time is not a soldier or a hardened survivor. Instead, you'll be playing as Grace Ashcroft, an FBI analyst. She's not a fighter by trade, which should make the horror feel even more intense. Grace is drawn into an investigation, a series of mysterious deaths that all connect back to a hotel, the very same place where her mother once passed away. That personal tie to the location already adds another layer of emotion to the story. Now, Requiem is set to release in February 2026. That's still a few months away, but the details we've heard so far suggest that Capcom wants this to be a true survival horror experience, not just another action-heavy entry. Okay guys, let me know your thoughts on the articles discussed in the video today. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.